Hello, welcome to Just Saying Wisdom. I'm Janine, and this channel is all about figuring out what happens when one part of our life is coming to an end, and maybe discovering that the next chapter in life can be even more interesting than the one we've just finished. I'm getting ready to step away from the corporate world and into retirement. And honestly, I'm a little scared, I'm a little nervous, but I am excited. I don't exactly know what I'm going to be doing. I haven't figured it out, but that's what this channel is all about. So I guess it's okay. It's about figuring things out in real time, about retirement, about money, creativity, new adventures, all the unexpected things that happen when you finally get to ask yourself, what do I really want? Because today, I'm going to share with you 5 things that retirement is teaching me, even though I haven't officially retired yet. And honestly, some of these things have surprised me. I expected retirement to teach me about money, how to stretch a dollar, about Social Security, and about what I'm going to do with all this sudden free time I'm going to have. But what it's actually teaching me so far is something much bigger. It's teaching me about choice, about creativity, about identity, definitely about fear, and about what happens when you finally realize that the next chapter of your life doesn't have to look like the last one. And that's where I am right now. I'm standing at the edge of one season of my life, looking out over what comes next. Today, I want to take you through these 5 lessons and explore what retirement looks like in real life, because I don't have things figured out yet. I'm having to figure it out as I go, and I'd like to have you along.
Lesson 1. I'm replacing panic with possibility.
The scariest part of taking a step is deciding to take it.
I've spent way too much of my life in a place I've come to call survival mode. You know that place. I'll bet a lot of you are intimately acquainted with it. To me, survival mode is the feeling that you have no choices. You just do what you have to do. You get up, you go to work, you pay the bills, and you take care of everybody else. You keep moving. And somewhere along the way, you forget that you're actually allowed to ask yourself, what do I want? Apparently, that's a dangerous question, because once you start asking it, you may discover you actually do have some choices. And that's where I am right now. A couple of months from now, I'll officially be closing the door to the corporate cage.
And I have to tell you, I am terrified and excited, which is the emotional definition of retirement.
One minute you're thinking, freedom! And the next minute you're looking at your bank account saying, freedom? How much is this going to cost?
And that got me thinking about those little seeds that you see floating through the air at the end of a flower's life.
They look like the end, but they're not. They're the beginning of something else. Children make wishes on them. And I started wondering, what if I made a wish on them too? What if those seeds represented the dreams and desires we've carried around for years? What if we let the wind carry them? And what if some of them landed in places we never expected? The second thing I learned so far is what it's costing me to keep going.
You know, I never thought I would retire. I thought I'm going to work the rest of my life. This 9 to 5 will just keep going until I keel over. That was actually my future in my mind. I'd go to work, I'd do what I needed to do, and I'd keep doing it. I thought, well, eventually I'll probably stop at some point, but I certainly never dreamed of retirement. I didn't sit around thinking of myself on a beach somewhere. I wasn't counting the years. Actually, retirement was never a goal. The question that changed everything for me wasn't, I don't want to do this anymore. It was actually, what is it costing me to keep doing this?
Because I had started noticing the cost, not just financially, physically, mentally, in my day-to-day life. My health was starting to tell me that something needed to change. Blood tests were giving me warning signs, and my body was giving me warning signs. And I was having a harder and harder time moving freely. I had spent so many hours sitting at that desk day after day, year after year, that sometimes I honestly felt like my body was molding itself into the chair. That's pretty disturbing. And when you really stop and think about it and consider it, the chair isn't where I wanted to be anymore.
I had to ask myself, how much of my health am I willing to sacrifice to keep doing this?
Here's the thing about survival mode. You can get so used to being uncomfortable that you stop noticing how uncomfortable you are. You tell yourself, I'm tired. Well, everybody's tired. My back hurts. That's because I'm getting older. I don't move as well as I used to, and that's just life. The blood work isn't perfect, but I'll deal with it later. I'm exhausted. But I just need to get through this week, and then through another week, and another week, and another year. And eventually you realize I'll deal with it later has become your lifestyle. So how much of my life was being spent sitting in that chair waiting for the weekend? And how much of it was I leaving there in the chair? Those are the harder questions.
Now, I'm not saying that work was the enemy. It wasn't. And it did give me a lot. I got experience, gave me a paycheck. I met people that I probably would have never met. It gave me a sense of stability. And I was pretty good at my job. So that sense of being good at something is something that counted as well. So then I realized something. I didn't want my paycheck to come at the cost of my own health. Now, I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but I do know what I don't want. I don't want to look back years from now and say, I just kept going because I was afraid to do anything else.
So what does it mean? It means I'm finally giving myself permission to consider other possibilities. Maybe retirement isn't about stopping, it's about redirecting. And it's taking all those years of experience and finally using some of them for things I actually want to create. For me, that might be writing, it might be art, and who knows, it might be this YouTube channel. It might be a snail mail club, and it might be something I haven't even imagined yet. Because after spending so many years following a schedule that someone else created, I guess I'm ready to see what happens when I have the opportunity to create a little more of my own. Which brings us to the third lesson that I've learned so far. I'm realizing that income can come from creativity, not just employment.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room, money.
Because retirement sounds wonderful until you start looking at the numbers. Social Security is going to be part of my picture, and I'm grateful for it. But I've also realized I'm going to need to think creatively about how to bring in additional income. And isn't it interesting what we call social security? Is it social? And is it really security? Perhaps I'll save that rant for its own episode.
I'm choosing to look at Social Security as a starting point, not the whole answer.
So that gives me a different question to ask. What can I create? And what can I offer? What do I know that might help someone else? And maybe the answer isn't just one thing, maybe it's several little things. A book, a subscription club, a creative project, this YouTube channel, something handmade, something taught. Maybe it's something I haven't even thought of yet.
And quite frankly, I would really like one of those things to start making money because I'm not particularly interested in building a beautiful, fulfilling retirement with an empty bank account.
And so this is where I find some exciting things happening. I am starting to think about income differently. For most of my working life, the equation was pretty simple. I give my time to my employer and they give me a paycheck. Now I'm asking whether I can create things that have value beyond the hours that I spend sitting at a desk. And that feels different.
And that seems like a good place to tell you about one of the projects that I've already started, and that's my snail mail club.
This club is one of the ways I'm exploring creativity, connection, and the possibility of creating something meaningful while also creating a little additional income for this next chapter of my life. So if you'd like to support me in that project, I'll put the link to the Snail Mail Club in the description below. It's called the Old Cozy Post. If you decide to join, thank you. It genuinely means a lot to me because you're not just supporting a subscription club. You're helping me build something as I make this transition into a completely different season of my life. And that to me is pretty special. And that brings me to number 4. I'm learning that being a beginner is actually exciting.
This one kind of surprised me. You know, when you're younger, being new at something can actually be quite embarrassing. But I'm discovering that getting to this age can be wonderfully freeing. I don't have to prove anything to anyone anymore.
I can be terrible at something and still enjoy learning it. I can pick up a paintbrush, I can learn about plants, I can try an instrument. I can write something that doesn't work, and I can even make a video that isn't perfect, and I'm getting really good at that one. I can start over. But let's face it, I've already spent decades being an expert at things I didn't particularly want to be an expert at. Maybe it's time to become a beginner at something I actually enjoy. I believe that God is a God of creation. And look around, creation is everywhere. And if we are made in His image, then there is something deeply human about creating too. That doesn't mean everyone needs to paint a masterpiece. Creation might just mean growing something or learning something, restoring something, or simply taking an old idea and giving it new life. Retirement may give us something that we haven't had in decades, which is the time and freedom to discover what we're capable of creating. And if I happen to make a mess while I'm learning,
Well, that's what cleaning products are for.
and last, for today at least, is number 5. I'm learning that change can be an adventure.
And I'm still scared. I'm not going to pretend I'm not. There are moments when I still wonder if I'm making the right decision.
But I'm beginning to look at change differently. Instead of asking, what if everything goes wrong? I'm trying to ask, What if something goes wonderfully right?
And that's a completely different mindset. And that's why I've decided to change the direction of this YouTube channel.
I don't want to just talk about retirement from a distance. I want to take you with me. You're going to see what happens when I actually close that corporate door. You're going to see the excitement and, yes, the uncertainty, my experience that work and the ones that spectacularly do not work. You'll get to see me figure out what I do with my time and how I handle the money questions, how I create additional income, and how I navigate the identity shift that's going to come with leaving a career. And quite possibly, how many cups of coffee are required to reinvent yourself anyway?
I'm guessing that the answer is more than I currently realize.
I'll share all the projects I'm working on while I figure out what's coming next. And I want you to be part of the conversation because I expect that I'm not the only person standing at the edge of a new chapter. Maybe you're getting ready for retirement. Maybe you've already retired and discovered that retirement isn't quite what you expected. Or maybe you're facing a completely different kind of change. Whatever your transition looks like, I want us to walk through this together. So, if you're interested in seeing what happens when someone steps out of survival mode and starts figuring out what comes next, subscribe to Just Saying Wisdom and come along for the journey. And leave me a comment. Tell me what changes you're facing right now, or if you've already started. If you've already retired, what's one thing that you wish someone had told you before you took that step? I want to hear your stories. I want to learn from you. And as I go through this process, I'll share mine. So that's what this channel is all about now. Not pretending that I have all the answers and not pretending that the transition is always easy. And definitely not pretending I know what I'm doing every minute of the day. But I'm taking the next step anyway.
Because I don't have retirement figured out. I'm figuring it out in real time.
Just saying.